If you couldn't tell, I like Dandy's World, like, a lot. But just because I love the game, it doesn't mean I can't acknowledge its flaws. One thing that always bothered me about this game was the balancing of toons. A lot of them are alright, I think you can make any toon work if you wish. There's people who make Shrimpo work, which is great. But it's clear some of them are a bit behind others in terms of either their abilities, stats, or even both. Or even if they're not that far behind, they have strange design decisions tied to them that make them feel weird to play. So let's take a look at some toons I think need some tweaks, and see how we can adjust them to make them work better. Do note, these aren't here because I think they're the worst toons in the game, I just picked out my favorites who I think need some changes. The last toon in this batch is actually a main. See if you can guess which main it is before I get to it. I love Blot a normal amount. He has a very fun ability and is my favorite of the circus trio, although there's a bit of a problem with him, at least in my opinion. The other circus trio members are hybrids in a sense, they're both good at extracting and distracting, although Louis leans more towards distraction side, while Yada leans towards extraction. But they can do the other role if called for. No one would get mad at you for running Magnifying Glass on Louis or Dog Plush on Yada, which perhaps leads you to believe Blot has a similar stat spread. Nope. Extremely low skill check and extraction of high speed and stamina. He's a pure distractor, and you'd be crazy to use him as an extractor. Nothing wrong with that per se. There's other slow extractors that are meant to distract, or do other roles. But honestly, Blot's situation is made worse by the fact that both Yada and Louis are better distractors than him. The 2-star stealth makes a huge difference in a bad way for Blot. Even if Yada isn't optimal due to her stamina cards can remedy that, and you also can just manage your stamina better when you play her. She's still a lot better at distracting in public lobbies because of her stealth, and trust me, I've tried distracting as Blot in publics, not fun. But as Yada or Louis, it's a lot more manageable. So not only are they good extractors, but they also outclass Blot in the one thing he does. Though, my gripes with Blot's stats don't stop at just the other circus toons are meta and he's not, or whatever. His ability is really fun and interesting, a decoy to attract Twisted's attention away from teammates is awesome, but he's a distractor. And as someone who plays a lot of Blot, trust me, you don't use Blot Jr. a lot. If you're playing well, you don't really touch the ability because you're the one who keeps the Twisted's attention, and you can usually snatch them from teammates without resorting to Junior. And that's also another problem in my opinion. Most of the time you'd rather just take them normally instead of using Junior to steal aggro. Junior is good, it takes their attention instantly, but it also throws off your entire momentum. One of the Twisteds in your pile becomes stunned and you have to keep moving as everyone else keeps going after you. It desyncs your entire distraction setup, so using Junior can be actively detrimental for Distractor Blot. It's a solution that'll fix one problem but immediately create another that can quickly get out of hand if your teammates are dumb. And let's be real, it's Dandy's World. 90% of the people you see are that bad. I've had so many instances where I use Junior to grab aggro from teammates and that stuns one of the Twisteds in my pile. I keep spinning, expecting to be able to get the Twisted back by the time I go around the island one more time, and boom, the Twisted spots another teammate who wasn't aware enough to leave the vicinity, and now there they go, running to the other side of the map instead of passing the aggro to me. And with your 3-star stealth, it's not like you can start wandering with your Twisteds to try and get them back. You can't, you'll just get everyone else spotted. Now, maybe this is more about the nature of distracting and how it's an inherently boring and a rewardless task, but I think Blot especially suffers from this, because his abilities and stats are in active conflict with distraction as a whole. Some toons like Pebble, Louie, Goob, and Eclipse can distract without any of the issues Blot has. But that doesn't mean I hate Blot Jr. It's a very good ability, it's just wasted on the wrong kind of toon. Kind of like Goob with his hug or something. I really enjoy Blot Jr. when I'm not distracting, and instead I'm running an extraction Blot setup, even though he's one of the worst extractors. When my friends and I are just looking to do casual runs or are not serious about going far and play with no distractor, I always end up going extractor Blot, because I find it fun to play. Blot in this sort of support playstyle or on your toes ready to save a well-timed Junior is really fun. I know it's all subjective, but give it a shot, it's a really unique way to play, and that's when this rework idea came to mind. Blot would be so much more fun to play to me if instead of being a set-in-stone distractor, he was more of a hybrid support, like Louie and Yada, so here's my changes. As you can see, His stats remain mostly the same, save for taking 3 stars from his stamina and giving them to extraction. I kept a 1-star skill check just because I think my makeup still needs to be thematically relevant to his kit. And a fast extractor with a small skill check is not something we have so far. Closest we have is Glisten, but he's 2-star skill check, not 1-star. His movement speed would still allow him to be used as a distractor if need be, just like Yada, but his preferred playstyle would be gathering Twisteds for the distractor and saving teammates with Blot Jr. while also extracting on the side. Him having lower than average stamina would fit well, since sometimes stats don't make sense, but Blot being made of ink would have a more unstable body, so having less stamina to represent that would be cool. Also, I didn't change his stealth, since he's not as brightly colored as his circus partners, and also since mimes are quiet. I figured he should have standard stealth. This would still technically make him worse at distracting than either Yada or Louie, but it's not like he isn't already, so he'd be fine. His place would be as a support Toon. There are some tweaks to Blot Jr. as well. One thing I thought would work when Blot first came out was on-hit trinkets like Blushy Bad or Savory Charm triggering with Blot Jr., but they don't. But honestly, I'm not even sure why they don't. It wouldn't be broken or anything, it just opens some fun possibilities for Blot. So now, Blot Jr. inherits the effects of your trinkets. For the sake of balancing, Savory Charm would probably be consumed when Jr. dies, which wouldn't make it that good. This doesn't make a difference most of the time, but it means he can use something like Soul Sword to debuff Twisteds without the heavy cost that is losing 1 heart. So yeah, that's Blot out of the way. Razzle and Dazzle are a joke, if I'm being honest, and not a very funny one. They were one of the first toons I ever purchased because I thought they looked cool back then. But when I play them, I realized why no one else ever touched them. Their whole gimmick is that they swap from being extremely fast but bad at extracting to extremely slow but good at extracting every floor. On paper, this gimmick is interesting, but in practice it just means that they're extremely inconsistent and unfun to use. Having no control over which state you're in while also having your stats change extremely harshly just leads to a bad experience. They can't distract because half the time they won't be fast enough, and if you want to use them as extractors, half the time they'll be as slow as Pebble. And even when they're good extractors, you have to get to machines, and good luck doing that with 1-star speed. Even in organized lobbies where people know not to be rude and steal machines, you might still have a hard time fighting them because everyone is just so much faster than you. It's the same problem Sylvester has. So how do we fix this? Well, Brusha introduced toggle abilities to the game, and I think we can make something like that work. We'll replace their passive with a new toggle ability of the same name. With this new toggle, switching between Razzle and Dazzle will simply be at the click of a button. So if you are in Dazzle form and get spotted by a fast Twisted, you can quickly press the ability and blitz away, or if you're in Razzle form and find a machine to do, swapping to Dazzle might be a smart choice. The cooldown has to be somewhat long to prevent this from being spammed, and also giving them a weakness in having to commit to a form for a time. So when the ability is used, you have to wait 60 seconds to toggle it back. Allowing the player to swap freely would make it more fun for most people, and also allow people to stay in one form for extended periods of time. If characters like Louie can be fast all the time, why can't Razzle and Dazzle? This would also allow Distraction Razzle to be actually a viable option, or running Dazzle for extraction as well. I don't even think a change like this would be too overpowered. Razzle, even as a 5-star speed toon, would barely overshadow Pebble. They'd be a strong option, of course, but it's not like allowing them to be fast all the time would completely break the meta since they basically have no ability and just 3-star stealth. And Dazzle is pretty balanced all things considered. Sure, they're a fast extractor, but what holds them back is their speed, so they'd be like Sylvester or Connie. They're not the strongest, but if you like them you can make them work. And that was my changes to Razzle and Dazzle. Let's move on to the next toon. Cole is tragic to me. She was given the exact same stats as Flutter, which means she's basically locked to distracting, unless you want to have a subpar performance and bring nothing to the table. But unlike Flutter, Cole's ability is even sadder. She was given a support ability to locate items, which, fine, is a pretty cool ability for a toon, especially since it highlights it for everyone no matter how far away they are. But, giving her this ability when she's supposed to be a distractor just means she's naturally at a disadvantage compared to the other options. Someone like Pebble has an actively beneficial ability, and the ones who don't, like Goob, have favorable stats like low stealth and high stamina that make them great options anyway. But Cole doesn't really have anything going for her. People say her hitbox is big, making it more difficult to maneuver around Twisteds. She only has slightly above average stamina. Her ability is literally useless for her role, it only helps her teammates, and on top of all of that, she wasn't even given lower stealth to help her make her a good option. So between every distractor, she's the worst by far. To fix her, I had two routes I could take. Either change her ability into something beneficial to her distraction playstyle, or change her stats to fit her ability better. I went with the latter. Personally, I'm a big fan of her current ability, so it would be a shame if we lost it, so changing the stats was more appealing to me. But let me know how you would change her to make her a better distractor if you'd prefer that route in the comments. And here are the stats. Discal Rework reimagines her as a contrast to Pebble in a way. Pebble is all about movement, high speed, and stamina, but Cole will be more about extracting. I imagine her bulky body, built for carrying heavy stuff, would be able to move as fast as a small dog like Pebble. I give her 4 stars in skill check and extraction, solidifying her role as an extractor support. She's a smart dog, I imagine, and her role is to help Bobette carry things and perhaps other tasks. Her knowing how to extract machines would be neat. Also, her extraction animation is too funny to not have more people do it more often. Her movement speed will be 3, standard, nothing special. I considered making her a 2-star speed since she's a big lump of coal and her being sluggish would work, but with how I wanted her stealth to be, I don't think she'd be very fun to play with 2-star speed. Her stamina would be 2, purely because there aren't any more stars to pass around. If she was a main, it'd be 3 stars. Her stealth is 2, again. She is a huge chunk of coal. I think her being a bit eye-catching would fit well, and it would also allow her to play a bit of a bodyguard playstyle like Brusha. With this stat spread, Cole could serve more of a supportive role in a team, helping them do machines while also showing items around the map. Without having to distract, she could also more reliably walk around and actually, pick up items that she revealed and actually interact with her ability instead of pressing it and looking around unable to wander and pick stuff up. And that was Cole. On to the last character in the video. And finally, the main event. The main character I think needs to be changed the most is Astro. Let me know if you guessed it right. Astro is kind of alright. He's not a bad toon, but he's a bad main, if you get what I mean. Compared to the other mains, he's clearly fallen behind quite a bit. After Bobette's buffs, he was immediately solidified as the worst main for me and many others. Every main has something they excel at especially. Pebble is the best distractor in the game, Shelly is a great extractor and often used in meta teams thanks to her stealth not interfering with Pebble and her buff being great. Sprout is a healer, which gives him intrinsic value on its own, but he's also fast and can serve as a backup distractor. V is extremely convenient to have, she can immediately show where all the Twisteds are, and she can also locate machines extremely easily while others may waste time looking, making her outpace most toons in terms of machine completion. Bobette's a great support that can help people get to places faster or buff people on treadmills, not to mention solar distracting. Bassie's the only character able to drop items, making her convenient to have, so bans and meds are never wasted. With her, distractors can also have useful items like air horns delivered to them when they might not be able to wander to pick them up themselves. Gordy is the fastest extractor in the game, and his boostering panic mode helps against Twisteds getting faster, while also helping people get back to elevator faster in case there's a slip up on the prime machine. And Astro? He's alright, his extraction is a bit below average since he sports a 2-star skill check, but he can help with machines, and he can refill people's stamina when they need it. But that's the problem. Astro's ability is about regenerating stamina when someone needs it, but most of the time, most people don't really need stamina. Stamina is the worst stat in the game, in my opinion. The difference between 1-star and 5-star stamina is barely felt if you're good at the game, since you just want to conserve your stamina regardless, so that leaves Astro in a strange position. He's kinda not needed a lot of the time, and when he is needed, 1 Astro isn't enough, since you can only refill someone's stamina once, but unless they make it count and escape, their stamina will run out again before your cooldown is up. That's just the nature of abilities like this. Astro helps bad players get saved, but if you're in a good team, his value drops, which honestly shouldn't be the case for any toon. Every toon should have value, even if they're not the best at their job. Even Brusha, who people often point to as a toon that only helps new players, still increases skill check chance by 50%, making machines go by faster. So even in a good team where no one needs the skill check size, they can still make use of Brusha. So how could we make it so Astro's ability still provides value in teams even when the players are good? You could lower the cooldown further, maybe to about 30 seconds, so that if you have good teammates that can manage their stamina, it's more achievable for them to conserve their stamina until the next pulse. But that's boring. Let's do something cooler. His active ability will still work the same. When you use it, he creates a pulse that completely refills everyone's stamina, but I'm adding some extra effects to it. When struck, every toon except Astro himself will receive a buff that'll make it so their stamina will not drain when they are sprinting. This effect lasts for 10 seconds. This might be quite strong, but I think Astro needs something really strong since his ability only affects stamina, which is kind of a weak stat. Another alternative would be perhaps having the ability affect a different stat, but I couldn't come up with something. Movement speed would kind of make it direct competition of Bobette, more than he already is. Skill check and extraction kind of make no sense, and stealth could potentially become more of a detriment, especially if he's being used as a support for the distractor. So here it is, he's the stamina guy. These buffs would allow for a lot of cool plays, especially allow distractors to outrun Bevel for extended period of time. I don't know if it would be good enough to take him out of the worst main throne, but maybe it's impossible for him to get out of there if he's only buffing stamina. If this isn't enough to save him, I don't know what would be. But yeah, I think that's it. What do you think of the rework ideas I came up with? Which of the 4 was your favorite? Also, don't forget these are just my ideas, and there are hundreds of ways a toon could be fixed. If you have any ideas that differ from mine, let me know in the comments, I'd love to see what you come up with. But yeah, thanks for listening to me yap about Dandy's World once again. Goodbye.